Okay, in this part of learning module number 7, we're going to go over the statement of cash flows, which is, generally speaking, one of the more complicated ones. So I'm going to hit the highlights in this PowerPoint, and then we'll have another PowerPoint where we'll go kind of line by line as to how to read it. Okay, so we know cash is king, and the goal of this financial report is basically to show everything that we need to know about cash. So it's going to show our cash on hand at a certain date, which is usually the end of the fiscal year. And we're also going to show how cash was used during the fiscal year that it's reporting on. We're going to include cash and cash equivalents, and your book talks a little bit about what cash equivalents are, but essentially it's marketable securities, things that can be readily converted into cash. So not our longer term assets, not property, things like that. On the cash flow statement, we're going to report the cash into 3 categories. We're going to divide the cash that way. The first section is going to be operating activities, cash that we got from that. Cash from investing activities is going to be second, and then financing activities is going to be third. And at the end of the report, we're going to see the cash that we had at the end of the year. So the cash that we had on hand on the last day of the fiscal year.
So the first thing you're going to see on the statement of cash flows is cash that's generated or lost from operating activities. And generally speaking, it's presented in categories, even though they're not necessarily labeled as such. The things at the top or closer to the top are going to be things that aren't real. I know that sounds odd, and when we talk about cash, we're trying to talk about things that are real. But the way it works is, take depreciation. So maybe I own a building, and every year that building gets a little less valuable, or it gets not quite, or actually buildings usually do increase in value, but maybe it's a car or a van, and it's got more miles on it and it's just not worth as much, and so it's a depreciation. The asset itself has not changed, but the value of the asset has changed. And so that has to be reflected on my cash flow statement, because theoretically, if I sold the van, it would be worth less. And so there's a series of back and forth throughout the whole cash flow from operating activities of things that put cash into my coffers, so to speak, and things that take cash.
So the second and third parts of the cash flow statement are going to be cash from investing and cash from financing. So in terms of investments, if you didn't do anything with your investments over the past year, then this area is going to be pretty blank. Or if you didn't have investments, you of course wouldn't have it on there. But if you bought investments, so if you invested money, or if you sold investments in order to take out money, that's going to show on the statement of cash flows. Likewise, from a financing perspective, it's going to show whether you took out a loan, whether you had to access your line of credit, or whether you paid off your loan and paid down your line of credit.
Okay, so at the bottom of the statement of cash flows, you're going to see basically the results of your year. And so it's going to be, did you increase your cash? Did you decrease your cash? It's also going to show you, it's going to net that out for you, but it's going to show you your beginning cash and your ending cash. And let's not forget that one of the ways that we want to look at this statement is looking at, this year versus last year. And so you'll be able to see the, cash flow that's happened over the 2-year period, so that you can see, am I draining cash? Am I generating cash? What's happening in my world? Which, as we know, cash is king, so we've got to keep an eye on that. Okay, when you're ready, you can go on to the last statement, which is the statement of functional expenses.